What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Auburn Blitz podcast right here on this Tuesday morning. We're glad that you make us your stop here in the morning or during lunch or whenever it is that you tune us in. We appreciate it, covering the Auburn Tigers up and down the line, not just football here, obviously. We know a lot of people concentrate on football, but we obviously are in the middle of basketball season, and Auburn remains at number one, Randy, for the sixth consecutive week with a dominating win over Alabama. And I say dominating because you go in and you look at a game against number 1 and 2 and on the road, you really, as the visiting team, are just hoping, like Coach Pearl said, to have a one-possession game coming down the end. And it didn't matter if they had the lead or if we had the lead. You would take that if you knew you could get that on the road. But this was a lot better performance for Auburn. They never relinquished the lead. So I know Faith and I talked about it for a long time yesterday, but this is your first time being on this week. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you and just let you give your thoughts on how Auburn performed on Saturday.
Well, a couple of the keys that I thought going into the game, I felt like Auburn did a lot of those things. One, keeping your mainstays out there on the court, maybe a few extra minutes there in that basketball game to keep your best athletes, especially your best defenders on the court. And I think we saw that with Chaney Johnson. Chaney had an amazing game. Even when Chaney doesn't score 14 to 16 points, I think all the other intangible things that he brings to the basketball team is so needed. And he had a great game. Denver Jones, whatever Stephen Pearl said to Denver Jones, I hope he says it before every game because we said it last week, and I'll reiterate it right here. Denver Jones can score the basketball, and he's one that we want shooting the basketball 12 to 14, 15 times a game, not the 4 that we saw against Florida. And Coach Pearl made mention with that. It's a lot to ask for Denver. He comes in as a 2-guard, transitioned to the point guard last year with a need basis with what he was able to do, and the lack of solid play by Aiden Holloway made Denver need to get a few more minutes there at the point guard position. And that puts extra pressure on him from a ball handling standpoint and creating, offense for other players standpoint. So it's really tough to get a feel for what is needed night in and night out from you. But I think since Stephen Pearl said, look, take that 2-guard mentality to the point guard position and go and find buckets. And since then, he's been the best offensive player we've had the last 2 games on the road in some very tough environments over in Nashville as well as in Tuscaloosa. So Denver Jones is one you can't say enough great things about. But I thought the key to the basketball game was going to be on the defensive end and how well we defend those guards out on the perimeter and not give up easy, open 3-point shots, and we didn't, man. Mark Sears, one of the best talents in college basketball. I thought he was the best player in college basketball closing out the season last year. But he and Aiden Holloway, and I don't think you can really say that about LeBaron Philon. Philon can go get his. He's different, Brett. But the other two don't necessarily like physical guards, big, strong physical guards leaning on them out front. And look, Auburn's been in that situation way too many times over the last 5 to 6 years since Jared Harper left. So we understand it. But Alabama's in that situation right now. And yes, Mark Sears hit some key shots in the second half that got them back in the basketball game. Tip your hat to him there. But nothing was easy for him. Anytime he tried to dribble drive, which he was so great doing last year, we defended him. We put a body on him. And Aiden Holloway, if he gets to the free throw line, he's going to score points. He did get to double figures, but that guy can straight stroke it. But you cannot give him space, and we didn't give him space on Saturday. And to hold him, a guard that doesn't do a lot of things other than score the basketball. He's not dynamic with the ball handling. He doesn't create for the rest of the team. He's a hindrance on the defensive end from a physicality standpoint. So if that guy doesn't go and get 18 to 25 points for you, it's a lot of those minutes aren't great minutes from Aiden Holloway. And so we didn't make a lot of his minutes good. And one of the keys to the game, and then I'll get, an idea from you on a couple of plays that stood out for you. But one of the best plays on Saturday was Denver Jones in transition, realizing Aiden Holloway was the lone defender between him and the basket and
Yeah.
not kind of taking it at him. I mean,
Yeah. Ran over him.
barreling at him,
Ran over
taking
him.
it straight to the bucket, going, getting a 3-point play. That was like the icing on the cake for me, because you could watch his whole facial expression and everything explode when he realized, look, this little guy's between me and the bucket. He's a buddy of mine. I don't know their, dynamic, but it really felt like all of the Auburn players thought a lot of Aiden Holloway. And I do
Right.
too. I mean, that
Right.
guy can straight score the basketball. But he's not great on the defensive end. And for that to be one of the plays that you go back to and point to was a key to the basketball game. And just great overall week for Auburn. Going on the road to win at Vandy, which is really, really tough, and then going and winning the way that we did in Tuscaloosa, you can't ask for much more from Bruce Pearl, this staff, and this entire team.
Well, I wanted to go back to Aiden Holloway, since you talked a little bit about him. I think we saw why he didn't translate well at Auburn. Um, and I think you see why maybe in games like that one, he kind of goes missing. He got to the rim. He missed a couple of layups. He was rushing some shots. He looked out of sorts in that game. He did get to 10, Randy, but it was a tough 10 points for him. And I go back to that play you said with Denver. That kind of set the tone for me with him in that game. And it was kind of like, look, man, this is a grown man's game today. This is not a finesse. Get out there on the wing and get a kick out shot, and you're going to be wide open for a three. You better learn how to play physical, or you're not going to fit in this game. And I don't think you fit in very well. And I think it's because when you run up on a team that wants to play you the way Auburn played you, the Tennessees of the world, the Ole Misses of the world. We saw Ole Miss go into Alabama and do. I don't remember what he scored. I think he actually had a pretty good game against Ole Miss. But overall, this was the knock we had on Aiden Holloway at Auburn last year. It just at times looked like the game was too much. This isn't AAU ball. And when you play in the SEC, you better get ready to get your lip bloodied. You better get ready to muscle up somebody on defense. I saw Nate Oates get onto his group several times about not playing up to the level they needed to play defensively. So I think he's very talented. I think you and I are both agreeing on that. That's why Bruce Pearl signed him. I mean, he's one of the top guards in the country, but sometimes you find out that there's just games that he's going to be maybe a non-factor. And I'm not saying he wasn't a factor, but physically he was out of his league again Saturday.
Well, it's the same storyline we saw last year. And, it is nice as an Auburn fan to see it play out the same way that we saw it, because, we don't want anybody talking down the program.
No.
We don't want anybody talking down the effort. And, we can sense how much Bruce Pearl loves these guys that he brings in. And he hasn't said a single negative thing. He said nothing but positive things about the Alabama program and Aiden Holloway and all. But there can be both sides to the story, and both sides here is I think that this was a really good move for Auburn. Do we have Miles Kelly if we still have Aiden Holloway? Probably not. Do we go and get Todd Pettiford committed if we still have him there? I don't know. Would Denver Jones be playing the 2 instead of the 1 and not maybe having as much go through him on the offensive end as we've seen this week? Maybe not. So the only thing I'm saying is I wouldn't trade any of our guys that get a lot of minutes for him. And so the game is played out that way. But overall, defensively, I'll go back to something you just said on your previous comment. The effort of getting through picks on the perimeter is shown when Auburn's at their peak. When you watch Auburn defensively switching a lot out top, the opposition's getting the matchups that they want when you do a lot of switching. And Now, the beauty of Auburn is a Dylan Cardwell and a Chaney Johnson, they can defend your point guard. There's not many teams in the country that have an athletic big like those two that can defend the point guard. We do. That's what's so special about Chaney Johnson. Chaney Johnson may be the best overall athlete, guard, forward, center on Auburn's team and one of the top ones in the SEC. I'll say the same thing I said in my opening statement here. I mean, Chaney Johnson can score zero and still do so much that he needs to get 33 minutes out there on the court. And I think that Auburn is sensing that, and the entire fan base is sensing that. And, you know, can you name an Auburn player, Brett, that has developed any more over a 2 or 3 year span? And let's go back a long way here, because we all like history. We all like talking about old players and old teams at Auburn and anybody in the SEC's had. Name me a player that you think's developed over a 2 year span any better than Chaney Johnson has this year.
It would be tough, but a guy that he reminds me of, not because they look anywhere near the same, is Bryant Smith. You know,
Yeah.
I thought what Bryant Smith did at Auburn, over the course of 3 years, that 99 team that went 29-4, I thought he was as integral part. I know Chris Porter and Doc Robinson, and I know Mamadou and all those guys got the praise, and I can just tell you, I really think Bryant Smith was as integral part of that team. He kind of fits the role of what Chaney's filling on here. Glenn said Walker Kessler developed, and he did.
Sure did.
He
Yes.
absolutely did. I totally agree with that. But if I'm going back to, I'm just going to go back to that 99-2000 year, because really prior to that, it was so hit and miss for Auburn to be worth a darn anyway. So I would say maybe a Bryant Smith, a Walker Kessler, some of those guys, but I don't think any of them have done what he's done. And I don't know that anybody expected Chaney Johnson to morph into the player he's become. And it's because of what he's done personally, off-season workouts, individual training, working one-on-one with Ira Bowman and some of these other coaches, and just like Bruce Pearl said so many times this year, gonna outwork every single person to make the better version of him. And you don't coach that. You either have that inside of you, the want to really get better, or not. And he's taking it upon himself to use free time to be a better player, and it's helped Auburn beyond belief. I mean, the increase in his stock is it's off the chart. I'll just say that.
Well, there's no delay in his shot wherever he is on the offensive end of the court. If he's open from the 3-point line, he's shooting the basketball.
Confidence.
If he gets a one-on-one matchup where he feels like he's got the defender beat, he's making moves. Whether it's a nice little baby hook or something, that he's just got everything in the arsenal, and he's starting to look like a pro. He's got the body.
He's got the body.
And the defensive, the defensive end of the court, because not all pros need to average 28 points per game, but all pros need to have something that they point to and they say, this is what separates me from 99% of the rest of the basketball players that think that they're professional NBA players. And the one thing that separates Chaney is that athleticism, Brett. He's a top-tier athlete and a top-tier, sky-high guy that just plays physical and has a chance to just get better and better as the year moves on, we hope, and as his career moves on. And it's going to be very interesting to see how all this D2 stuff comes down the line with the NCAA also, because we already expect CBM and Denver and a few others to maybe have a chance to have another year there at Auburn. There's a chance if this D2 legislation goes down and the D2 years come back open for these players, that Chaney Johnson can come back to Auburn too. Is that a storyline that people are already talking about, or did I notice that and nobody's really said it yet?
No, it's a storyline. And I definitely think that if you look at JUCO and you say JUCO players 2 years or whatever don't count, then why wouldn't a lower division? And you knew this was coming. And if it goes through, I think it'll pass. And because you're going up divisions, and basically what the courts are saying is those are separate governed bodies, and separate divisions can move up because, like, I hate to say that I'm going to compare this to the pros, but heck, we're pretty much playing a professional sport. If you spend 4 years in the minors, should that kill many years you can play in the major leagues? There's no ceiling on that. So I know it's different. But I'm just saying, hypothetically, what you do in one division of play doesn't mean it exhausts your effort in another division of play. So you could go, let's say, play 4 years of Division II. I'm not saying I'm for this, okay? I'm just saying this is the way it's looked at. If you played 4 years and you ran out of eligibility in Division II, why does that make you ineligible to play Division I? I mean, on the surface, it makes sense. Do I want a bunch of 32-year-old guys playing college basketball and football? No, I don't. But unfortunately, with all this legislation and the way the courts continue to rule, I mean, we already got some guys that are 27, 28 years old playing college football. And I think Chad Baker-Mazar is 25 years old. And so, I mean, it's crazy to think about all of this. But if you're going to let one group do it, it kind of is that open up a can of worms scenario. You kind of got to let everybody do it, I think.
It's up and down the line, too. I mean, I think there's so much to be said about poor leadership up and down the line, but there is no team.
Can you go backwards, Randy? Can you go backwards? Can you go Division I? I don't know why you'd want to do this, but could you go play Division I for 2 or 3 years and then go down to Division II?
It's a great question. I don't see why you couldn't. I mean, it's the same premise. So it's wild. They're going to have to get a grip on it. They got to get a grip on so many things. I don't know how they do it.
I don't know how you control all this
outside of legislation that comes down from the courts, because the NCAA can't lose every battle in the court and then go fight anything. How often have we said that? I mean, when you go to the court system and you lose all of them, at a certain point, you're just not going to fight them anymore.
Right.
If somebody goes and they say, with this D2 deal, and say, why would I not be eligible to play another couple of years of Division I basketball when I started at, say, North Alabama or somewhere like that, and you come back and you can't win the battle. So why even fight it? And I think that's where the NCAA is with a lot of things.
All right, let's look at what that win did for Auburn on Saturday. In the big picture, it's just another regular season game. Now, we know that there were a lot of things attached to this game, the rivalry being number 1 versus number 2 for the first time in conference history, and it happened to be these two teams. The national audience that game drew, all eyes on that game, the importance of, just the enormity of the actual moment. Now, again, it's one game for both teams. You got to shift your focus immediately because both teams have 6 games left, and Alabama's got a tough road to hoe, and so does Auburn. The good thing about Auburn is that they've got the next 3 at home, so it gives them maybe an opportunity, and they're not the 3 toughest teams in the league. But you better not sleep on anybody, because the moment you let your guard down is the moment you drop one that you shouldn't drop, and then you bring everybody else back into the fold. So if you look at the rest of the schedule with Arkansas and Georgia and Ole Miss, and then you look at the back half of that 6-game stretch with Kentucky, Texas A&M, and Alabama, Randy, Auburn has an opportunity sitting here at 11-1 to go ahead and get to that magic number of 13 or even 14 and put a lot of pressure on teams before Auburn even gets to that second half of this 6. And we all said that 13 usually gets you an SEC regular season championship. I'm not sure that's the case this year. I think it's going to be either 14 or 15. But if Auburn wins these next three, they're right there sitting on the cusp of making it almost impossible for anybody else to win the league unless they have a perfect run. And if you saw the polls yesterday, which I know you did, Auburn's number one, Florida's number two, Duke is three, Alabama is four. But listen to this, and I want your take on this Auburn schedule and this Auburn team and the mentality that it's set for everybody after Saturday. Iowa State 8, Texas A&M 7, Tennessee 6, Houston 5, Alabama 4, Duke 3, Florida 2, and Auburn, of course, number 1. But Auburn has played or will play every single team there in the top 8 in the country. And a couple of them they'll play twice. This is the most absurd schedule, results, quad one wins, all of this. And I think after Saturday's win and the way Auburn went in there in Coleman Coliseum in that environment and played the number 2 team in their building, unless there's some monumental collapse, that this team has separated itself from everybody else.
Well, got to hold on. I mean, I think it would be an unbelievable win for Auburn to win a regular season SEC championship with the strength of this league. I mean, right now, top to bottom, may be the best league that we've ever seen. I keep going back to the league needing to win a national championship, so that argument holds. But this is a great year for this league to win a national championship. I can make an argument 3 of the top 4 teams, which is showing up there in the polls, but my eyes tell me the same, that 3 of the top 4 teams in the country are from the SEC. It'll be very disappointing if one of those 3 teams doesn't win the national championship. Look, I don't want Alabama to win the national championship any more than you do, but I do want the SEC to win the national championship. And I think 3 of the 4 best teams that I've seen, and you can make an argument, and you have over the last couple of months, that Iowa State and some others are in that mix, but I don't want to play Florida. And I think we're a good bit better than Alabama. I think we've got to play down to Alabama to lose, but we can.
Now we've got to play them again, so we'll see.
I think we're the top 3 teams in the country. Have you seen anybody better?
Oh, no.
Seen anybody that when you play it on a neutral site in the NCAA tournament that you're scared to play? There's nobody in the country I'm more timid to play than Florida.
I mean, Duke really is a one-man band. I mean, let's just be honest, and he's a great player. He'll probably win Player of the Year by the time it's all said and done. I don't know why he would. I mean, he is unbelievably skilled. I definitely think he should get Freshman of the Year, but I just think Janai Broome, the schedule he's played, and to put up numbers that Janai Broome has put up and lead a lot of categories head-to-head with Cooper Flagg. Now, Cooper Flagg leads some categories too, but you and I saw a stat line in a comparison last night we had a friend send over to us that shows that when you look at the competition and Janai Broome's numbers are even with Cooper Flagg's, I mean, to me, that's the deciding factor to me. If you can put up those kind of numbers against this schedule and play the teams Auburn has played out of conference and in conference, I mean, in 6 more games, I think you need to hand the Naismith Award to Janai Broome. I mean, that's just my opinion.
I think it's neck and neck. I think.
Well, it is neck and neck, but
yeah, the more that I hear the pundits that can sway the voters and sway the way this thing plays out at the end, all of them are 50-50 right now, and I think that's fair. I don't think Janai's 90-10. I dang sure don't think Cooper Flagg's 90-10. I think that you got to watch the way this season plays out. And you got to win championships. You got to hang banners. And you got to hang banners in the best conference, possibly potentially from top to bottom. And if Auburn does that in the regular season and then goes and continues that play into the SEC tournament and Janai averages 18, 11, and 3, you're going to have a hard time for the senior to not get the nod for the National Player of the Year. I'm telling you, that's going to play into this. The 4 years that Janai's had is going to play into this in the end. But he's got to have equal numbers, and the team's got to have equal results. And right now, all of that, he's at least equal, if not better, in a lot of different areas of play. But back to my question, I mean, is there anybody that you see nationally that you point to and you say, this matchup I worry about? Now, we can play bad enough to lose to probably 10 teams, but as long as we play above average, I think we're better than almost all teams I've seen so far outside of 3 or 4, with Florida and Alabama being the 2 best outside of us. So I'd love to see the SEC hang another banner and win a national championship. And I don't know what's up with Kentucky. Kentucky, so what? Did you watch the end of their game the other night?
I did.
Have you seen a more poorly coached last couple of
No.
minutes than they put out there on the court the other night?
Yeah, they're not. I mean, they're definitely struggling. I mean, they're 17th in the country now, and they only fell a couple spots, but
they lose basketball games they should never lose, and they lose it by very, very poor X's and O's coaching. I mean, hell, Brett, they couldn't get the ball inbound.
Well, who was excited about Pope coming to Kentucky? I didn't think.
I didn't hear anybody. No.
I mean, is he doing a little bit better than maybe John Calipari could have done this year? I don't know that. I mean, this is kind of what John Calipari was doing at Kentucky.
Another thing that I was very impressed with Bruce Pearl on Saturday, and some may not like it, but I love it. Man, he gave it to those coaches.
He sure did.
During that, with our inability to get the basketball inbound.
That was terrible. That was terrible.
Very, very poor very poor coaching, very poor drawn up plays to get the ball. I mean, we've got 90% free throw shooters.
And we missed 4 in the basketball because we were throwing it into Janai. That's ridiculous.
We really have 4. I mean, we've got 4 guys that handle the ball for us more than anybody else on the team. And you've got 3 of the 4 in the basketball game together during that stretch, and you get the basketball, and somebody's got the yips. I mean, Janai, you could sense he had the yips going to the free throw line there.
But he was hurt too, you know. And again, he tweaked his ankle again. He was worn out. I mean, it was.
I'm not giving him a pass.
But he's not the guy you pass the ball into.
That's right. I mean, Denver, you could watch him. He's going to the free throw line. He's knocking them down.
Denver,
Miles Kelly missed what, 1 of 8.
Right.
There on Saturday. Tahad's going to make them. If he misses one, it's a shock.
Well, he's the guy I wanted in his hands.
And then CBM, he's not going to miss free throws too often. So, I mean, that's a luxury when you shoot the ball that well with the main guys holding the ball, because you're able to go and win. But, you know, and those guys stepped to the free throw line and hit some key shots on Saturday. If we didn't do a much better job of getting the ball inbounded to the right people, it was going to be a struggle. Lord knows, poor old Dylan is struggling, isn't he, with that free throw shot?
Well, look, I'm telling you, man, I almost had an aneurysm. You know, we're comfortably ahead with 1 minute and 10 seconds, and not only do we throw it, okay, I get it, I get it one time. Okay, Alabama's defense, and we don't want a 5 seconds, so we get it in Janai, but to do it twice and to miss 4 free throws in a row and give them a chance and had that thing down to 5 points and them have the basketball is like, I lost it like Bruce Pearl did. I mean, it was like I was over there screaming at the couch like there were 3 assistant coaches I was talking to. I'm like, and I think everybody that was around me is like, good Lord, man, he is freaking out. And then they showed Bruce Pearl freaking out. And I said, see, he's freaking out too. He knows it's a crap deal, you know, that you can't get the ball into the right person to end the game. So anyway, I kind of felt better when they zoomed in on Bruce and he had veins popping out of his forehead too. So.
Yeah, you've got some of the same emotional issues that I think he has in competitive spirit. Glad to have Faith in here. I'll step aside, Brett. I'll talk about our business here in Auburn, though. We do have our new office opened on Opelika Road. It's at 1848 Opelika Road, right beside Laredo's, for a landmark for you. Lee Apparel and Sign Source office here where you can come by and do business with us in the Auburn market, from start to finish on any signage project that you have. Also, something that we saw last week in the Auburn market, we just had a truck out front. We had 4 different businesses call us to have us come out and fix an existing sign that was either damaged or had some lighting issues. Yes, we do all of that also. 256-825-0197. Screen printing, embroidery, corporate apparel, promotional products, athletic uniforms, Lee apparel. Again, 256-825-0197. I'll step aside and let y'all two close it out. Thank you, Faith.
Bye, Randy.
See you, buddy. All right. And we welcome in the Hat Game Pro.
Hey,
Faith,
hey.
what up this morning?
It
Wanna
makes
be
me feel,
cowboy. Wanna be
yes,
cowboy.
that's from the concert I went to on Sunday.
All right.
Sunday night. We got
Concert
this.
review real quick for
Oh
everybody.
my gosh, it was so good. It was Vincent Mason. My dad actually coached him in football growing up. He's the same age as my brother. And
How about that? You didn't tell
um,
me that. That's pretty cool.
yeah, and so my dad actually coached him. And so at the very end of the concert, he likes to go over to the merch table and like say hi to people who stick around and everything. And so I FaceTime my parents and
Oh, that's so
I let
cool.
him talk to my dad, and he was really excited. And then yeah, he was awesome, super, super nice. He's opening for Parker McCollum and Riley Green this fall. So
Wow.
he's gonna be. I'm
He's
grateful
moving.
that we got to go while it was a nice small venue like this where he can actually take the time to say hi to people. And he was like, "Oh, I thought that was you out there," and I was like, "Yeah, I just wanted to say hey." But yeah, it was great. So
I think
I got
he's getting like 3 million listens a month on Spotify already. So
yeah,
he's
he is.
moving right on up the ranks there. So before
Yeah.
we dive into the second half of the show here, Sensa Green, for air that's cool and clean, call them Sensa Green, the carrier experts and proud partners of Auburn Athletics and the Auburn Blitz podcast here. So we can't thank them enough for being our lead sponsors here on the podcast, along with Scout Program Management, full construction management firm located in Birmingham, Alabama, specializing in educational projects like new schools, renovations, but they can handle anything. So if you need a firm to handle your next construction project from start to finish, they'll handle that for you. And Bunkers in Auburn on West Glen, outstanding food. Me and Faith give it a 5-star rating all the way around, from entertainment to the food. It's outstanding. So make sure you go check out Bunkers on West Glen. And while I'm at it, Sure Shot in Alexander City, and that's the wrong logo. I'm sorry about that. I'll get to the right one here. Sure Shot in Alexander City. They're both the same, but one's a little bit better. You can read it a little bit better. And if you are looking for hunting apparel, firearms, a handgun, they are the place to go. It's located on Highway 280. Had somebody come up to me yesterday and talk about Sure Shot. I mean, I'm telling you, since we've added Sure Shot to our sponsor and partner list here on the podcast, I had more people talk about going hunting and getting their camo there and getting all their ammo there. Go see Scott Watson. The Browning 22 rifles that he has in stock are very hard to come across, and you need to go check him out if you're looking for that, or any type of other gun that you might be looking for. He can find it for you. The Browning SA-22 or the Browning BL-22. Give them a call or head on up to 280 and check them out. They're the place to go for all your hunting needs and everything else that's going on in the world of outdoors, Faith. And I know you like to hunt as well. So, if you're looking for some camo, get on up to Sure Shot. That's the place to go. All right, Faith, we'll shift focus to Arkansas. We'll talk more about that tomorrow as well as we preview this game. But just kind of your thoughts. Auburn, 6th week in a row at number 1. I don't think that's a surprise by any stretch. But, man, if you look at the top 8, and I talked about it, I don't know if you saw me talking about it before you came on. I mean, Auburn's either played or will play everybody that's in the top 8. It's unbelievable. And I think I lost Faith. She was being really still, so I don't know. There she goes. There you are.
I
You're
was
back
like,
now.
what just happened?
There you are. I mean, it was like I was like, you're either very intense in listening to what I'm saying without any facial expression, or the screen's frozen. So I found out the screen was frozen. So I don't know if you heard anything I said or not.
No.
Okay, just going back to Auburn being unanimous, well, not unanimous. They got 59 of the 62 first place votes, but being in first for the sixth consecutive week and looking at the top 8 teams. I don't know if you saw me talk about that before you came on, but will either play or have played everybody in the top 8. This is a unbelievable schedule, and to be the team that pretty much has separated itself from everybody in the country the way it did Saturday is truly amazing.
No doubt. We've had such a tough schedule and and I'm not saying other people haven't had a tough schedule, but I just think we've been able to put forth our best ball, that we've been able to prove that and against who we've played, that we are the
Night in and
best
night
team.
out. Night in
Yeah.
and night out. Yeah.
Best team in the country.
And again, I think maybe the performance Saturday set that apart even more for people that maybe were skeptical and going, hey, well, let's see how they perform against the number. Not that Auburn had anything to prove. Again, Alabama was favored in the game. I think the game started out, early line was like 3.5 Auburn, and then it switched to Alabama 1.5 before game time. So it's not that anybody really thought that Auburn was going to go in there and win, but not only did they win, they kind of won in comfortable fashion where, put 95 points on the board and was able to, kind of control that game coming down the stretch after Alabama had come back and tied it. I said 95, 94 is what I meant. They come back and tied the game, and then able to hit clutch shots. It's just the way that Auburn handled that whole game, as far as the environment, the emotion, the way they played on both offensive and defensive side of the basketball, just all the way around good. Jerron said, do you guys think we set Broom for the SEC tourney? I'm going to be honest with you. I think maybe him and CBM, if they're still banged up. Look, I like hanging SEC championship tournament banners as much as anybody. We hung one last year, but what was the last taste in our mouth last year? A first round loss to Yale. Everybody quit talking about winning that SEC tournament championship game, and I was there in Nashville. It was fun. Nothing's better than winning a championship and then going out and partying in Nashville that night. But in the scheme of things, Faith, that tournament really didn't mean anything anymore. And
most times, too, whoever wins the tournament always gets out the first or second round.
Well, do you know how much effort it's going to take for whoever wins this tournament to win it? I mean, the teams they're going to have to play. I mean, I don't care what combination of teams that you're drawing out. There is no easy draw for anybody. I'll tell you who the tournament should count is important to. Those teams at the bottom trying to steal a spot in the NCAA tournament by winning the championship. But for Auburn and Alabama and Florida and Tennessee and Texas A&M, I think they all have to really seriously consider what their priorities are and how they want to approach playing this. And it again, the tournament starts pretty quickly after the SEC tournament is over. So if Broom is still hobbled and you think he can use, that week and CBM to kind of get back to as close to 100% as possible, Jerron, I'm for it. I think we've got a good enough team without those two that we can go in there and play with anybody and challenge them. Now, can we win the tournament without those two? I think it'd be very tough if everybody else is playing full strength. But, I mean, save those two guys. Let them rehab a little bit. What's your thoughts, Faith?
I mean, in the long, I'm always thinking about in the long run, what is this
Sure.
going to do? And I'm with you. If we sit them and get them back to full health and full strength, how does that have anything to do with whether we win or lose the SEC? Like, I think if we want to make it far and we need them healthy, then you sit them and call it a day. Whatever. We've proven ourselves for what, 6 weeks in a row now, being the number 1 team.
Right.
What else do we need to prove this
And
early
that
on?
tournament's not going to help our seed or hurt it. Like Jerron
Exactly.
just said. He said it's not going to do anything. It didn't do anything for us last year to win it.
Exactly.
So
So I'm all for sitting, making them healthy, doing some rehab and calling it a day and having hopefully us going far in the NCAA tournament instead.
yeah, at the end of the day, again, we get to hang a banner last year. We hung a banner last year for winning the SEC tournament championship, but everybody's taste was soured by the early exit in the NCAA tournament. And that's really what
No
counts.
one cares about that when you lose against
Right.
Yale in the
That's
first
what
round.
right.
No
And that's
one
what
cares.
counts. And I think, again, Coach Pearl and the staff and the players and everybody learned a lesson that they won the tournament and they got so caught up that the NCAA tournament kind of screw Auburn with that seeding and sending them all the way out west. And I know Alabama got sent out there too. We were at the same spot, but again, you basically said, NCAA tournament committee, that winning that championship meant nothing. And so what that does is make you reconsider how you approach that tournament if you're at the top going into that tournament. Now, if you're in 8th or 9th place or you're on the bubble trying to get in the tournament and you need to go in there and feel like you got to win a couple of games to do that, that's a different mentality. You approach that tournament differently based on where you are. And if I'm Auburn and I'm Florida and I'm Alabama and I'm Texas A&M, I'm looking at this tournament differently. I'm thinking if things kind of hold suit, I'm thinking, man, if it's not going to really affect our seed, then I'm going to try to do some things to kind of, hey, this is the talk that we have in the SEC baseball tournament every year because it's the same identical setup. Do you rest pitchers? Are you willing to try to grind this thing out all the way to the end and then turn around and have to play a regional and then a super regional and then possibly the College World Series? I mean, nothing is more grueling than those two sports. The amount of games that you have to play and the different types of, again, regular season, then 2 tournaments. It's a long road. So good point, Jerron. I think that's a good discussion. I think we'll see how it comes down the stretch for Auburn, Faith. I think these 6 games, starting with Arkansas, that's where we'll shift focus here now. If you look at Arkansas, they've played a lot better basketball lately. They beat Kentucky back on February the 1st, 89-79 in a very emotional game for John Calipari to go back to Rupp Arena. They turn around and go on the road and beat Texas the following Wednesday, 78-70. They go to they have Alabama come into their place, and Alabama had like a 17, 18-point lead. They cut it to 3, end up losing the game 85-81, but a valiant effort for them to come back against Alabama. And then they come home and handle business against a bad LSU team, 70-58, and then they lose a close one Saturday to Texas A&M, who's number 7 in the country. And they had to go to College Station. They only lost that game by 8 points. So this team's playing way better, and they don't have their best player in Boogie Flan. So they roll into Auburn at 8 o'clock on Wednesday thinking, hey, Auburn just came off the most emotional, biggest game of the season. We're playing better basketball. What better time to roll into Neville Arena and see if we can pull a shocking upset and have a monumental resume-building win for our program this year, and that's what you're going to get out of them. They're going to come in. It's still John Calipari, and he's got some really good players on that team. And if we don't play our best, it could be a dogfight.
No doubt. And if you're looking at the team stats and everything, basically a lot of it is very just 1 or 2 kind of points off, or 2 or 3 points off in comparison, other than the points per game, where we average 85, they average 76.
But they play defense about as well as we do.
Right. And then points against, we're both sitting at 68. And so it's really not going to be I don't think an easy game where we can just take a relaxing game and la dilly dally and everything. I don't think that's
I don't think that exists in this league.
no.
Ever,
but
ever.
I don't think that's what I'm hoping, that we don't have that kind of mentality going into this game. I'm sure there's some Auburn fans that are like, "Oh, we don't need to worry about this game, like whatever." But I don't know. I feel like this could I hope it doesn't expose us in any way, shape, or form.
Well, you always got to think about it when you're the team coming into the number 1 ranked team's house and you've had a season like Arkansas. You got to put yourself in their shoes thinking this is their season. They're not going to play harder anywhere than when they come into Neville Arena. And they played some really good teams off their feet on the road. So they're going to come in.
Florida came in.
Florida came in and weathered the storm and then kind of took control of the game. Now, I'm not comparing Arkansas and Florida team-wise because they're not anywhere close. But we didn't play well, and they exposed that. And so Arkansas can do the same. If you want to go back to January and you look at the way they started this thing, Arkansas started off 0-5 before they got their first win. So they get their first win against Georgia on January the 22nd. And then Oklahoma beats them by 3, which, again, a very close game.
They only beat Georgia by 3, so
exactly.
Yeah.
And then you come into February, and that's when they've been on this run. So you want to go back to the end of January where they beat Georgia and barely lose to Oklahoma. They go to Kentucky. They go to Texas, get 2 great wins. They go they come back home and play Alabama. That's a 4-point game. And then they knock off LSU, a team they lost to early in the year somehow. I don't know how they lost to that LSU team, but they did. And then they played Texas A&M in one of those rock fight type games like you talked about and like we talk about all the time, 69-61. This team's better over the last 7 or 8 games than it started the season. So John Calipari's philosophy, the way he's kind of worked this in without their best player, should be a team you should respect. And I think that's what Coach Pearl does such a good job doing with our team, Faith, is that we don't look 3 or 4 games down the line. We look at what's in front of us. We're going to be excited to be back in Neville Arena for the next 3 games. And I think they'll get a warm reception. It'll be a rabid crowd at 8 o'clock Wednesday night with Auburn coming back after that win over Alabama. And I expect, Auburn to take care of business. And the ESPN matchup predictor has Auburn with a 92% chance of winning this game, which is no surprise.
Yeah, and I feel like we say this every time, but tickets for standing room are as low as $120.
There you go.
So if anybody wants to go, but if you don't want to stand, you're looking at $150-ish each, and there's not that many left. So if anybody wants to go to the game, there's that right now.
I mean, and again, it's crazy to say, but the midweek games are a little bit more attainable to go to than those weekend games, because a lot of people that have maybe season tickets or have tickets that can't make a midweek game because of a job or just being able to travel, and 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night stuff for some people. So there may be more attainable tickets out there on a Tuesday or Wednesday night than there would be on a Saturday game, obviously.
Yeah, and just from my own experience, I think Wednesday games are so much more fun than Tuesday games. I really think the students enjoy it more, or at least I know I did.
Because Thursday feels like a weekend, Faith. I mean, in college, let's be honest. A Thursday
For me,
night
it
kind of
was. I
feels
didn't
like
have
a
classes
Friday
on
night.
Fridays, so
Well,
yeah.
I'm not saying you don't have classes, but I don't mean everybody goes.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Thursday night's
I
a
told
big
you I
blowout
always
night.
went to my classes, Brett. I told you.
I know you
Can't
set the bar so high for everybody they can't reach it.
can't expose me
So
like that because
I
I
mean, the perfect student. I know mom and dad's proud to hear you say how you did what you were supposed to do and go attend your classes. That's
they'd
what
be
you're
so
supposed to
mad
do,
if
right?
I didn't.
There,
They'd be so
exactly,
mad.
exactly. Just like my parents were mad when I didn't go, for sure. So, um, yeah, that's a story for another day. But anyway, the tickets, it's crazy to think that that's how you have to look at it. And of course, going on the road, you can see Auburn cheaper. I know a lot of people. I've talked to a lot of people that are going to Kentucky. Um, they've been wanting to always go and take in a Kentucky game in Rupp Arena, and Auburn being the number one team, and maybe Kentucky not being as strong as they normally are, feel like we got a legit chance to go in there and win. And I expect to go up there and play Kentucky off their feet. Again, we haven't won up there since '87, so I'm not saying anything. We got to kind of go in there and get a win before we talk about being favored in a game. So maybe this will be the year that we can snap that streak too.
But if anybody's gonna go in there and get that win, it's gonna be BP and this team.
I hope
So
so.
yeah, I mean, I'm with
I think
you.
there's a curse.
I don't want to overlook Arkansas or anything like that right now, but um yeah, I'm looking forward to March 1st.
So we're gonna try to make. I'm gonna try to go. Well, I'm not trying to go. I am going Saturday, so I am gonna get to go to the game on Saturday
Against Georgia.
against Georgia.
Oh, good.
So and then you got Ole Miss coming in. So
I know. I want to see hopefully if
you can work that out.
yeah, tickets are as low as $61 right now.
Well, you better jump on it.
I might have to.
Better jump on it right now. I mean, they're only going to go up. It's kind of like real estate.
Literally, that's how it goes. That's how it was when we played Ole Miss here. It was like their tickets normally are only $20, or they were $5. $5 when
Right.
they played Kentucky.
And specify here because you're in Oxford, by the way.
Oh yeah, I'm still in
Yeah.
Oxford. I come
Right.
back to Auburn tomorrow or today. Sorry, today. After this, but yeah. So when I'm was here
Such a
for
laid back life, everybody. For Face, you don't even know what day of the week it is.
I really
When you have no cares in the world, it's just like, what day is it? Is it Monday? Is it Friday? Who cares? It's just
yeah.
another day.
Do I have to wake up for 8 a.m. podcast? Yes.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
will.
Absolutely, for sure. Well, we're going to dive into more Arkansas talk tomorrow and a lot of other things, some recruiting news. We'll talk some football tomorrow as well. There's a lot going on. Softball and baseball talk maybe a little bit more tomorrow as well as we move throughout the rest of the week. We've got a lot of stuff going on. Just kind of a programming note. We will be at Pepper Tree Steaks and Wine on Friday. Faith and I will be there. It will be a good show with Coach Pruitt, Coach Kleinert. Make sure you come out to Pepper Tree Steaks and Wine and say hello. Get you some great food, top wine selection out there. Just because Valentine's Day was last week doesn't mean you can't continue to have great date nights, everybody. So you can go out to Pepper Tree Steaks and Wine, get great food, get great wine, all types of other things that you can look at to purchase in there. They're awesome people. Love Kathy, love Paula, love Kim. They do such a great job. Their customer service is what keeps you coming back. Look, it's good to have a good product, but like everybody we're associated with, Faith, if you look at Sensa Green and you look at Scout and you look at Bunkers and Oliver Ross and Sure Shot, everybody we deal with, to me, they're all professional and 100% customer service driven. They have great products, but it's about their customer service, because you and I both know if we go to a restaurant that has sucky customer service, if the food's good, what we're going to walk out of there going and saying, those guys, those people are kind of a-holes, and we're not going back in there. I'm not going back in there and spending my money. All of these people and these organizations and businesses are top notch. And so Pepper Tree's right there at the top. You just feel like they come in and they deal
Even my parents
specifically
that have
with you.
gone in, that they don't know that my parents are my parents, that
Right.
we work with them. They, every single time, my parents have always had a great experience there, and, you know, go every single time they come into Auburn, they're always there. And so that's always a good weekend for me when they come.
Yeah, you
Because
love to steer them in that direction, don't you?
every time.
It's so manipulative. All right, so next week, too, we're going to remind everybody that we will be in Birmingham a lot Monday and throughout the week with our AHSA crew calling the state championship games. And of course, Jason Caldwell didn't join us yesterday, Faith, because he was on the road, and Oxford got a big win over Mountain Brook. The point guard there that Auburn's high on, so number one player in the 26 class. We're going to talk more about him tomorrow. Had a phenomenal game there, and the Alexander kid that's the point guard there. We'll talk more about him tomorrow. But again, we've got a busy couple of weeks coming up, and we're going to be all over the place. But we will still bring you the Auburn Blitz podcast every morning. You have that from us, and we will guarantee that no matter where we are, we will bring it to you every morning around 8:00. So, but Faith, anything to add before we get this day rolling?
Have you been watching any of the Four Nations, the hockey?
I have watched a little bit of it, and it's like might as well just not play hockey and just be an all-out brawl, and so you can beat the hell out of each other and get it over with. And that's about what happened in the first 20 seconds the other night
Against Canada?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Canada was booing during the national.
I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was outstanding.
Reese and I were talking, because we watched it, and he was like, if we have to play Canada again, I don't know if we're gonna win, because he was like, the only reason I think we won was because they were so fired up because of that.
And we just beat the hell out of them. I just think we'll just if we start to lose, I think they'll just say, okay, forget it. I don't care what the result again. I want you to go pick out somebody over there, and I want you to beat the hell out of them. And that's how we're going to justify this. So yeah, there's no love lost, and kudos to our guys for being in an arena where people booed our national anthem, and they said that's all right. Right as soon as we have the face off here, I'm about to drop my gloves, and I'm about to go find the nearest person, and I'm going to punch them in the face as hard as I can. And that's the mentality, and that's exactly what happened.
No, yeah, and we beat them. So we did lose to Sweden last night, but that was because we took our starters out after the second period. But hopefully,
so I've got to ask, since you like this, are you a big hockey girl? Do you like hockey?
It's definitely growing on me. I didn't really watch it before, but for everyone that doesn't know, I played lacrosse in high school, or in literally growing up since elementary school, middle school, high school. And I really like the fact that it's like lacrosse on ice. And I did ice skating for a little bit too. So
there you
go. But yeah, I've started to watch it more and more, and It's a really fun thing to watch. I really want to go to one. I heard the environment there is just more electric than an NFL game.
Right.
So I don't know. I really want to go to one. But Reese is
Yeah.
like, "Do you think you would like to report on hockey?" And I was like, I could see it. It could be fun.
A couple a couple of our friends went to a hockey game in New York a few years ago, and they were in New York and they were trying to figure out what they were going to do one night. And they're like, well, let's go to a hockey game. And the Rangers happened to be in Madison Square Garden. And of course, they're college football fans like us. And so they stood up at some points of the game. And they, of course, New York, it doesn't matter what sport it is, it's the most brutal profanity that you can ever throw out. And they found out real quick that you don't stand up at hockey games. You don't. And they were standing up on big plays, and people were like, "Would you?" I mean, and it's like start throwing stuff at you, and it's like you learn culture wise. And they leaned over to the guys sitting beside them, and they're like, "Hey, man, we're from Alabama," and they're like, "Look, it's obvious that you just figured out you don't stand up. So just kind of sit down and take the game. It's different. It's a different. Now
That's
it's
so
rabid,
funny.
but it's different. But I don't know if it's that way in other hockey arenas, but don't go to Madison Square Garden and stand up during a Rangers game. You're probably going to get a bunch of F-bombs and profanity laced tirades thrown at you. But that's just a normal day in New York. Why you don't have to go to a hockey game to get that from a New Yorker. You can just be
Yeah.
walking down the street and get that. So
It
it's just the way
looks
it
the
is.
wrong way and scary.
Yeah.
It's not.
Been in New York, and it's not what everybody says as far as that kind of deal. But you can put yourself, you can kind of see it's a different mentality. It's just, hey, get the F out of my face kind of stuff, and you just kind of move on. So
Yeah, I don't know about all
not
that.
a ton of nice people. Some nice people, but not a ton of them.
There you
So
go.
have to grow
It's
up
all
hard.
right.
All right, we're going to end on that note. And again, we want to thank all of our sponsors. I can't say enough about them and bringing you the show each and every day. Oliver Ross, a full bartending service that comes out to you. You can hire them for your private parties, your big events. If you're hosting a convention, they'll handle that too. Licensed and insured bartenders, professional service from start to finish. They'll take care of you. So call on Oliver Ross, and we're going to get you some information on them, some more information as we move along. Talked about Sure Shot. Can't thank them enough for all that they do for all your outdoor apparel, hunting needs, all your firearms. Call on Sure Shot, Sense of Green for air that's cool and clean. Call on Sense of Green, saving you thousands of dollars on your heating and air units here now in February. Scout Program Management, full construction management firm in Birmingham, Alabama, specializing in educational projects. And then Bunkers, located on West Glen in Auburn. Mine and Face, top-notch place to go in Auburn for food and entertainment. Make sure you put Bunkers on your list of places to go and hang out and eat great food. And that will officially wrap us up here on this Tuesday, right, Faith? Is it Tuesday? Is it Wednesday? What day of
Yes,
the week is it?
Tuesday.
Tuesday, right. Little quiz there for you to kind of see what day of the week it was.
We have a meeting on Wednesday.
We do. So
So,
it kind of keeps us in. Yeah, she's got one meeting that's keeping her driven right now. So
yes.
Bubba said, in hockey, you stand up for fights and goals. There you go. A little hockey 101, everybody out there. So you better sit your butt down, or somebody's going to throw something at you or yell at you or punch you in the back of the head. So I guess in New York, you can consider yourself lucky that you just get punched first, that you got the cussing first. So, and if you
Yeah,
can't learn from the cuss out that you get, the next thing coming is a shot to the head. So
there you go.
not a literal shot, okay? Not saying that. A punch to the head. Maybe I should correct myself. All right. We're going to shut up. We're going to get out. Hope everybody has a great day. We'll be back with you tomorrow for another edition of the Auburn Blitz podcast. War Eagle, everybody.
War Eagle.